This is a game. I call it the God game. Simply enough, hide and seek. Now, what does that mean? God's hiding. He's actually hiding in plain view. If you learn how to see it, you'll see that God is everywhere. Okay? If you're not looking, like imagine you're playing hide and seek with your buddies. They all go hide and you just walk out of the house and go for a walk. Are you going to find them? No. Seek and you will find. If you go start looking for God, you will. But if what you're trying to do is come up for reasons why there isn't a God, well, that's what you'll find. But that would be like looking in the wrong place. If you go look for God, you will find God. You want to argue with everybody else that there isn't a God, well, that's what you'll find. Remember, it's a mirror. You get that which you're trying to perceive. It's a game. Well, within any game, there's rules. And these rules are not determined by us. Right? If I'm shooting a shot behind the three-point arc in basketball, I don't ask the refs, can I make this 4 points, please? Can I run with the ball like a football? No, you don't get to establish the rules. Just like there are rules in the physical world called gravity, and they affect all of us, there are spiritual rules too. And these are the spiritual rules. You are a soul having a physical experience. All of us are. None of us spiritually die. When you are spiritually asleep, in effect, that's dead. We are supposed to be risen from the dead. The word Buddha means to wake up. We're supposed to wake from our spiritual slumber. That's what we're here to do. So it's a game. Seek and you will find. Fear no evil, simply put, Psalm 23. You don't need to fear evil because nothing bad can happen to this thing. Remember, this is what you are. When you know you're a soul, you're going to have a different physical experience. Exactly what Jesus was demonstrating on a cross. I'm not actually dying. He was trying to get people to see that. He wasn't actually dying. Souls can't die. So fear no evil. Everything that's happening is happening for you, not to you. This is worldwide. I've worked with thousands of clients, the ones who have gone through the worst of circumstances, including families or family members who were murdered. They find the most peace in this way of thinking. Okay? It fundamentally works for people who are struggling. Buddha, as I said, the word means awake. The man's name was Siddhartha. He became the Buddha because he worked on his awakeness. He did it through a 35-year journey in which he ended up seeking, towards the last 5 or 6 years, a whole lot of truth. And sure enough, he got really focused through his meditation, and he tapped into the truth. The word means to wake up. He has a lot of really good teachings, but simply put, the most important teachings are bundled together in his Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth being the world is suffering. He might have just said the world is chaotic. Okay? The essence of those noble truths is we suffer because of attachments. We suffer because we're attached to the flesh. Then he says in the third noble truth, if you don't want to suffer, detach from the flesh. That's what it is in essence. Stop thinking you're a flesh being. Realize the world's an illusion. You can no longer suffer. Tons of other teachings, but that's the primary one. You're having a spiritual experience. You're in a physical world, and your job is a physical world in which your job is to wake up spiritually. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount called them the Beatitudes. I like to think of them as the Beatitudes. He's not telling us what to do. He's telling us how to be. If you just reread the Gospels from a spiritual point of view only and realize he's talking to your soul and not your body, it changes everything. Okay? That's the great awareness and the great awakening. In Matthew, he says something along the lines of, it's given to you to understand the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. It's not given to them to know. He speaks in parables because some people get it and some people don't get it. Tons of teachings about this. The fact is, Jesus is a spiritual teacher, and he's talking to your soul. Read the Bible spiritually. He never spoke without a parable. John 6:63 says, the Spirit gives life and the flesh counts for nothing. Well, why should we read his stuff from a flesh point of view? Well, his teachings aren't flesh. You can interpret some of it physically, but it's all spiritual. Jesus is a spiritual teacher showing us that we are souls as children of God. We are souls. It's a spiritual book. So it's about being, not doing. The doing comes after the being. Once you've established peace, you're going to behave differently. That goes without saying. But he's teaching you how to be. Krishna. In Hinduism, Krishna is their prophet. And in the book, the Bhagavad Gita, which is what I like to call the Hindu Bible, it's an extremely beautiful text in which he explains almost all the same truths that Jesus teaches. Most primary one being this. This is a war. We're living in a war. The battle is between you and you. The battle is between the ego part of yourself and the spiritual part of yourself. Ego wins in many different cases. But eventually the soul's going to win. Let the spirit in. That's ammunition for the soul. And it's a war. Hare Krishna, the song that you've heard the Hare Krishna sing, it actually means to remove the illusion, right? The job is to stop seeing this physical world as flesh, see it as the spiritual world that it is, remove the illusion. All right, 27, hypnosis. Gnosis is Gnosticism is another way of looking at the Christianity from 2,000 years ago. Of course, in the book I go into great detail in this, but Gnosis means to know, okay? And I like to think of it like this. There's thinking, think there's a God. There's believing. A lot of people believe there's a God, but knowing is a whole different level. Gnostics are all about knowing, having a direct relationship with God. You can come to know these truths, and you don't need anybody else to teach them to you. That you receive them directly. And they very much believe in that which was Jesus Christ, and he taught a direct relationship with God. Now, Gnostics aren't so much into forcing their points of view on other people. That's why there aren't that many Gnostic churches around here, okay? They're not really into gathering flesh stuff either. Gnostics understand that they're here to do one thing, which is to access truth from God directly. You can receive the Holy Spirit directly. Kabbalah, which is in the Jewish religion, it's a thought system, it's a philosophy that emphasizes the importance of receiving. The word Kabbalah means to receive. What is it that we're supposed to receive? The Holy Spirit or the light. Okay? We are vessels of light. Remember? Vessels of light. These little cups, and we're supposed to receive a certain kind of light. If you're not receiving the Spirit, you are receiving ego. You want to absorb somebody else's ego energy? That's not fun. That's like when somebody has a virus and they cough on you, you just got sick. You want to absorb the light from Christ? Your body takes it on. Jesus says, if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. Well, you want to get this thing filled with light so that this soul can light up. Right? Well, Kabbalah is all about receiving and teaching how you can receive. Gospel of Thomas, that's not in the Bible. It's outside the Bible. But that last chapter of John says Jesus did much more than this. I was curious what that much more than this stuff was. And so I went and read this stuff. And the Gospel of Thomas is a great text. Truth is truth. And it's got some brilliant teachings in there. And in it is the idea, it starts off with this idea that we're in a riddle. And he starts off, the first line of the Gospel of Thomas is, if you correctly interpret these sayings, you will not taste death. To correctly interpret all the spiritual teachings, you will not taste death. Why? Once you realize you're a soul, souls can't die. Once you detach from ego, like Buddha would say, once you detach from ego, and this flesh aspect, this obsession with self, once you detach from that, you realize you can't die. No movie dies. You're in a projector. When the movie ends, it didn't die, it just ended. Time disappears then too. Same thing with the body. Time's going to end, but you're never going to die. That's important. That's just one teaching. There's 113 great teachings in Thomas. In Islam, Muhammad came about 600 years after Jesus. As we all know, there's a lot of arguing about who's the right prophet, okay, throughout the world. Well, this all comes together in the idea of unity. If you look at it spiritually, and you look at every spiritual text spiritually, if you look at religion spiritually, it all come together because they're all talking about souls. The word Islam means to submit. The word Muslim means one who has submitted. Well, what are you supposed to submit to? You, when you think you're an ego, are to submit to Allah or the spirit energy. You're supposed to submit. You're supposed to make yourself less. Jesus says, lose your life in order to find your life. That's the same thing as submission. You're supposed to be able to receive the Spirit, and when you do, you have to give up your ego ways. All the stuff that you got taught that you had to believe, Buddha's conditioned ignorance, you got to learn how to give that up. Politically speaking, a lot of stress going on out there. That's because people are really convinced of their point of view. Your point of view, which is relative, is called your opinion. That's not the same as truth. Truth is bigger than that. We're all about inspiring truth. Truth rises above opinions. Truth, as I describe in the truth test, has to be unifying. Now, Muhammad says in the Quran, truth stands out clear from error. There shall be no coercion in religion. We're not supposed to force our opinions on others because truth stands out clear from error. Why is that? Eventually, everybody will start to see that this stuff's logical. It's completely true. I like to use simple examples like patience. If you're in a traffic jam and you're feeling impatient, that doesn't feel good. Truth, which is patience, eventually you'll go, well, I'm going to start working on being patient here. And when you work on patience, you go, aha, now I have a little piece of truth. Arguing about who has the best prophet, which none of the prophets did. They never said, I'm better than. In fact, they went out of their way to say, don't judge. John 7:24, judge not by mere appearances, judge correctly. John 6:63, the flesh counts for nothing. Well, we're not supposed to be saying Muhammad is better than Jesus or Jesus is better than Muhammad. We're not supposed to be debating that. Let's look at the spirit behind what they say. And you'll see it's unifying. Go through every religion in the book I do, all the big ones, all the most main religions, they all say the same thing. It's about soul development. It's about consciousness development. And if what you're doing is trying to separate, that's ego's job. Way back there in the God game, I wanted to say that the game is between an offense and a defense. The defense is the ego. The ego is trying to keep you from scoring. The spirit is the offense. Let the spirit move through you. You'll be able to attack the defense. You have to be the spirit, and that doesn't work when you argue with each other over who's got the better prophet. Okay? There's one God. We are all one. Entanglement. We are all one. On the highest level of truth, it's the same. It's all God. That means Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, all of them coming from the same divine source. Vivere veritas, I made that phrase up too, but whatever, I'm allowed to do that. That's my point of view. It in Latin means to live the truth. Knowing and not doing is not knowing. There's a Zen proverb, I believe. Before enlightenment, shop would carry water. After enlightenment, shop would carry water. Once you know what truth is, guess what? Now you're going to live it. It's not enough to sit in a room and just talk about this stuff. Now we have to go be it. Go find your soul. Right? Seeking you shall find. Go find it. Once you know it, if you don't do it, it's called a hypocrite. And the prophets all use that word. Jesus uses it a whole lot. Once you know you're supposed to be accepting and tolerant and forgiving and all those types of things, and you don't do it, hypocrite. Okay? You are here to live the truth. First, learn the truth. That's what all this stuff is. Then live the truth. Last chapter I have is Christ consciousness. In the book I go to great lengths to say you could call it Krishna consciousness or Buddha nature, Muhammad consciousness, whatever you want to call it. I like to think of it as unity consciousness. That is the A+ evolution of consciousness. That which is Christ. Christ means to anoint with the Holy Spirit. Matthew 5:48 says you must be perfect. In Buddhism, they call it Dzogchen. You will be perfect. You have to experience perfection. Not just know what it is, you have to become it. That is optimal or unity or love consciousness or Christ, whatever you want to call it. But that's what we're here to do. And it is in you. Paul says, don't you know Christ is in you? We're all born with it. Like I said, it's in our DNA. We are here to pull off perfected consciousness. Not perfected bodies, but perfected souls. That's the job. And in that chapter, I go through all the things that Jesus said on the cross to demonstrate it is your story. He says you have to be crucified with me, pick up your cross and carry it. When you understand all of that, you realize you are going through a crucifixion as well. Must crucify the ego. When you do, you just got new life. Right? That's the Christ consciousness chapter, which then pulls it all together. All right. Come back for more. We're going to be doing 5 minutes on each of these chapters coming up. And we'll be putting those on our YouTube channel fairly soon. So please come back.